Conversations.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cucalorus Conversations. I'm Anna Bennett. I'm the communications manager for Cucalorus Film Foundation. And today we are going to be talking to Kim Carr, director of the documentary short Newsroom, and WHQR public radio journalist Kelly Kenoyer. Kim and Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. Happy to have you.
Thank you for having us.
So the first thing we just kind of wanted to talk about was the newsroom. Kim, since you were the director, I was wondering if you could just kind of tell us how it came about. What inspired this?
I was a graduate fellow in the MFA program, and I worked at WHQR for 3 years. And so being able to watch the news staff at WHQR, how hard they worked, how much fun they seemed to have while doing it, yeah, it was pretty impressive. They were always flitting in and out, churning stories out several a week. So I was just really interested in documenting it and just kind of hanging out in the station and just being a fly on the wall and seeing how, seeing how it all happened.
How long did it take for you to put this together? Or how long were you filming?
I feel like it was maybe over a couple of months because again, I was working there. If I knew they had something in particular going on, like a recording, I was going to school full time, so it was just kind of like picking and choosing when I could join them. But I really wanted to create a feel like what happens in a typical day in the newsroom.
Very cool. And Kelly, do you think that she did a good job of capturing that?
I think so. It was interesting watching it after the fact because, we watched it with the entire newsroom and we kept going, oh, I think that was when we were working on this story. Oh, I think we were working on that story. I remember, I think you came along with me when I was interviewing a government official. And then I was kind of just stream of consciousness talking about the story to you on the walk back, which is, it kind of helps to process the conversations you've had by doing things like that. And that's often how our conversations are inside the newsroom. We talk about what we just heard, and then we figure out how to best tell the stories from that experience. So you were almost a part of that component of the newsroom when you were there as the documentarian. Although I think you succeeded at being a fly on the wall a lot more when you were around more of us. When you were actually in the newsroom with us instead of one-on-one with us, you were just sort of monitoring our insane behavior. Which was probably pretty entertaining.
I think it was entertaining. How did it feel having somebody in your space documenting as you guys were, working on some pretty big stories?
I mean, I kind of felt like I was on The Office, I guess. I mean, they always do the look to the camera kind of thing. And I was trying to not do that because I knew that wasn't a natural thing for us to do. We were supposed to be ourselves the way that we would be normally. So it was a little bit strange at first, but I think that we eventually got a little more used to it. I think you once or twice had an assistant coming in with you so you could have multiple angles. Am I right?
There were a couple of times I had someone else help me with camera work, yes.
Yeah, and that was particularly strange because, there's only 5 of us in the newsroom, and then there were 7 of us, and 2 of them were cameras. Which is pretty different, but I think we mostly acted the same as we normally do. We're pretty unusual, so.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yes, definitely in a good way. Kim, so when you first started and you were like your first experience in a newsroom, was this what you expected to kind of see? Like how, everybody kind of has a different idea if you've never been a part of that world, like were you seeing things that you were like, oh, I definitely need to capture this to show other people, or like?
Well, I knew they all had different strengths, and I'm not sure if that's the right word, but topics or subjects in the community that they kind of specialize in.
Our beats, yes.
That's the news term, I guess, beats. And so I wanted to capture a little bit of all of that, but what I think impressed me the most was just how freaking knowledgeable they were beyond just the surface level reporting that I mean, listening to Kelly talk about, affordable housing, listening to Ben just rattle off all these facts about, everything news related was pretty cool. The struggle was keeping it short because I had so much footage And some was useful and some was useless. It was just like sometimes I would just come and just film them all working at their computers. And they're like, we're not really doing anything. Why are you filming? I'm like, well, this is part of your job. This is just you all just sitting in the same room, just not talking sometimes because you're all doing your own thing. So I wish I could have made it an hour and a half feature, honestly.
How have things changed, like the state of public radio now since filming, and like how have things with the most recent political things that are happening, how have these things affected you guys in your newsroom? Or has it?
Well, I mean, things have changed a lot in our newsroom for a lot of reasons. We have a lot of new staff who've come on since this was filmed. There are people who I dearly care about who are in that film who are no longer in the city of Wilmington, who moved on to go to law school, things like that. So our newsroom has changed substantially. We've unionized since this film took place. Which was an interesting experience. And now, yes, there's this, the federal government is trying to defund NPR and PBS through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And that is perhaps going to impact us. NPR and several other member stations have sued the federal government, so everything's a little bit on hold, and we are closely monitoring the situation. But the hope is if that were to go through, if that funding were to be canceled, we really hope that the community will come through and support WHQR because it'll be a substantial hit to our overall budget if that occurs, to the tune of over $100,000. It's a substantial amount that would require us to do an additional pledge drive every year. And we would really hope that the public would help us make that happen. If not, there might have to be cuts to our workplace. And that's not something we want to see. I think that every member of our news team is extremely key for supporting the news that we produce and for supporting this community. Cutting staff because of these cuts at the federal level would be disastrous. It would be heartbreaking.
What is it that you would like people to take away from this film? Since, it is such a little behind the scenes look at kind of how a newsroom can be. What were you hoping that people would kind of get from it? And who do you think this is for?
Well, I definitely think it's for listeners of WHQR Public Radio. I hope that they'll enjoy it. And I think what I would really want people to know is just sounds kind of simplistic, but just all the work that goes into it behind the scenes and how much the journalists at WHQR care. It's almost like trauma bonding in a way, I guess, because they're, working these long hours and they're pouring their hearts into these stories and they're working odd hours. Like sometimes they work nights because they have, community events or like city council meetings or whatever that occur at night. And it could be physically and emotionally and mentally taxing. And so they become a really close-knit unit, like Kelly said. So yeah, just what a tight group they are. And they form some really, really, I think, lifelong bonds with each other.
I think for my part, what I hope people take away from the documentary is what it's actually like to be a journalist, because I think there are a lot of media depictions that are really inaccurate. There's these stereotypes about female journalists sleeping with their sources. There's extremely dramatic depictions of what it's like to be a reporter. I think there are a few films that stand out as really good examples. I think Spotlight does a tremendous job, for example, but a lot of films and a lot of depictions of reporters show us in a pretty negative light or an inaccurate light. So I appreciate this documentary showing what it's actually like to be a local reporter and how seriously we do take our jobs and the effort that we put into it. And I'll tell you, it's not a super high paying job. We do this because we love it and because we love this community and we care deeply for the people in this community. We see it as a duty that we have to our community. We are public servants, even if we're not paid by the government. We are the fourth estate for a reason. And I think that that is what I hope people take away from it, that passion is real and that we are here for them. So if you have tips, you can always email us.
I think that's great. And I personally thank you guys for doing this because I know that it's not no, it's not a high paying job, but it's so important. And it's more important now than ever just to have people that are seeking truth and that are, going after the stories and trying to keep us informed in a non-biased way.
And I'm really grateful to you, Kim, for wanting to show this story and to wanting to highlight our little weird community that we have back there. So thank you for telling this story for us.
Absolutely. Great, thank you.
The 21st annual DocuTime Film Festival is going to be happening here at Jengo's Playhouse. That is Saturday, June the 14th, and Newsroom will be screening in the shorts block. Tickets are on sale right now for $15 individually or $35 for an all-day pass. So we definitely want to spread the word. But is there anything else you guys would like to kind of end with?
Support DocuTime and support WHQR during our pledge drives.
Yeah, I'll concur. Thank you so much for having us for this.
All right, thank you guys.
Cucalorus Conversations.